Somewhere tonight, in a basement or compound or a quiet rural town, a ritual is already underway. Flesh is being reshaped into something it was never meant to become. Your task force exists for exactly this moment. You are MTF Xi-8, call sign. Last to fall. A battalion-strength task force with one job. Find the flesh cults before they finish what they started. This is what that job actually costs. Before you understand your unit, you need to understand what your unit was built to fight. A religious and philosophical movement that worships flesh itself. Founded, according to its own scripture, by a figure called Grand Kartsist Ion. Its core belief, that all living things share a single ancestor, and that flesh can be reshaped, improved, and reclaimed by anyone skilled enough to understand it. Their stated goal is apotheosis, elevating humanity itself into something greater. The Foundation's own models treat that ambition as a serious apocalyptic risk, potentially an SK class or even XK class scenario if left unchecked. This is not a fringe group. It is fractured into dozens of independent cults worldwide, each interpreting the same core belief differently. Here is something most outsiders never learn. The cults don't call themselves Sarkic. Their true name for themselves is Nelka. Sarkic was originally an insult, coined by an old enemy faction, the Mechanites, who worship machinery instead of flesh. The Global Occult Coalition adopted the term. The Foundation adopted it after them. And it stuck, even though using it in the field can get an undercover operative killed. Foundation agents are trained explicitly, never to say it while embedded. You call them NACA, or you call them nothing at all. You didn't start as a battalion. You started as a small, specialized program. Project Sitra Achra, a counter-occult initiative built specifically to understand the cults from the inside. Its personnel trained extensively in Sarkic history, ritual practice, and cult psychology, knowledge most Foundation agents never touch. That core group became the seed of your task force. At first, you were built around 4 platoons: infiltration, expedition, heavy weapons, and paraspecialist. A single headquarters element, 23 personnel, under the command of Malachi Ben Liraz. Your task force doesn't operate alone. It's the combat arm of something larger, the Kelipat Nogah Initiative. The initiative exists for one stated purpose: to counter what the Foundation considers an inevitable, large-scale Sarkic escalation. Not a single ritual, not a single cult cell. The whole movement treated as a slow-building catastrophe. Xi-8 is that initiative's primary combat expression, the unit that goes where the doctrine says the danger actually is. First platoon, infiltration. 12 members, half active, half reserve. Their job is to get inside a cult before anyone realizes the Foundation knows it exists. Second platoon, expedition. 16 members, built for the physical search, recovering sites, artifacts, and evidence in hostile terrain. Third platoon, heavy weapons. 22 personnel, organized into fire teams built for direct confrontation. Fourth platoon, paraspecialist. 18 members, the ones equipped to counter Sarkic ability directly, not just Sarkic people. 4 platoons, 1 headquarters element, coordinating a mission most conventional soldiers would never survive. As the Sarkic threat grew, your unit changed. Paraspecialists were seated throughout every platoon, not just the 4th. Some of them aren't Foundation personnel at all. The Global Occult Coalition, an organization the Foundation rarely trusts and almost never fights beside, now supplies operatives directly into your ranks. So does the Church of the Broken God, the Mechanite faction whose entire theology defines itself in opposition to the cults you're both fighting. None of these 3 organizations fully like each other. All 3 agree the Sarkic threat is worse than the discomfort of cooperating. With that combined expertise, your unit's own internal projection says you can now handle most mid-level Sarkic threats. Not all of them. Most. Your current commanding officer is Colonel, later Field Marshal, Raina Tariq Sadr, Iranian-born, trained in Iran's own military before ever wearing a Foundation uniform. One of a small number of Iranian officers ever admitted to West Point. She served as Iran's military liaison to the Foundation's operations in the Middle East. Before the Foundation offered her a job of her own, she took it. She judged correctly that her career had nowhere higher left to climb where she was. Her first Foundation posting wasn't with you. It was with MTF Alpha 1, the O5 Council's own personal task force. From there, she took command of MTF Iota 10, an intelligence unit embedded across militaries and governments worldwide. At some point, she was offered command of Alpha 1 itself, the single most prestigious posting in the entire Foundation. She turned it down. Instead, she joined the Kelipat Nogah Initiative and took command of your unit. Whatever her reasons, you now answer to someone who could have had almost any posting in the Foundation and chose this one instead. Before your first infiltration mission, you're drilled on a single rule until it becomes reflex. Never say the word Sarkic where a cult member might hear you. To them, it isn't a neutral classification. It's the word their oldest enemies use to demean them. Saying it, even once, can end an infiltration instantly, and end the operative who said it not long after. You've had this failure explained to you in training. You've read the incident reports of operatives who forgot. Not every cult you're sent after looks the same. There are two very different traditions inside this one religion. Neo-Sarkic cults are libertine, urban, sometimes drawn from high society. They use sophisticated ritual and modern technology. Proto-Sarkic cults are rural, isolated, and older in method. Crude rites, primitive tools, generations removed from the modern world. Both believe the same core doctrine. They simply live it in almost opposite ways. Your unit trains for both. A raid built for a rural compound doesn't work in a penthouse, and the reverse is just as true. Not every enemy you face is a true believer. Some used to be and became something worse. The Hunters' Black Lodge began as an ordinary Sarkic cult community in Moscow. A single figure, Otari Zver Iosava, seized control and turned it into something else entirely. An anomalous criminal syndicate that keeps the name but not the faith. They still call themselves Sarkic. Your intelligence briefings are clear that it's branding now, not belief. That doesn't make them less dangerous. In some ways, it makes them more predictable and more ruthless. On October 22, 2019, an anomaly designated SCP 3911 was recovered. Your task force was assigned to transport it to Armed Reliquary Area 02, a secure Foundation storage site. A week later, near Flötningen, Sweden, the convoy was ambushed. The Hunters' Black Lodge, waiting, prepared, and better armed than the intelligence briefing had suggested. Several operatives were killed. Every vehicle in the convoy was disabled before the fighting even reached its peak. 3 additional squads arrived as reinforcements. Together, they overpowered the attackers and secured the site. After a mission like Flötningen, it's worth asking what any of it was actually for. Not one artifact, not one cult. The scenario the Foundation is actually trying to prevent is much larger. A successful, unified Sarkic apotheosis event could restructure what it means to be human on a global scale. In the worst-case models, it doesn't stop at restructuring. It ends the world as anyone currently living would recognize it. Every convoy, every raid, every infiltration is a small delay against that outcome, not a guarantee, a delay. Missions like Flötningen are part of why your task force stopped being a task force in the traditional sense. You were reorganized, enhanced to full battalion strength. Your operational scope now covers all 6 major inhabited continents, with naval support drawn from Foundation and former GOC maritime assets. Internally, the Foundation now considers you one of the single strongest combat forces it has ever fielded. Every Foundation task force carries a nickname. Most describe a skill or a joke, or a piece of equipment. Yours describes something else, a promise about how this unit behaves when everything else has already gone wrong. Last to fall. Not first to win, not never losing. Just the assurance that when a line finally breaks, it won't be yours. It's a name built for the kind of mission where retreat has already stopped being an option for everyone else. You didn't join a task force. You joined a decades-long argument about whether the Sarkic threat can actually be contained at all. Your commander turned down the most prestigious posting in the Foundation to lead this fight instead. Your unit grew from 23 people to a battalion because the threat grew faster than anyone wanted to admit. You fight an enemy whose real name you're not even allowed to say out loud. And you carry a name that promises you'll be standing after almost everyone else has already fallen back. A battalion. 4 platoons turned into something much larger. One mission that never actually ends. That's MTF Xi-8. That's what it means to be the last to fall. All information in this video comes from scpwiki.com, the Kelipat Nogah Hub page, the Sarkicism Hub, and official Foundation personnel records. The SCP Foundation is a collaborative fiction project. Every page referenced here is the work of individual authors who donated their writing to a Creative Commons project. The full pages are free to read at scpwiki.com. Next week on Shroudex Explain. Subscribe so you don't miss it.